Sukuna, do you love your mother? My what? What's up, guys? I'm Pencil here, and here we are to do a breakdown and review of chapter 234 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as Inhuman Mako Shinjuku Showdown Part 12. I don't know. I'm just going to keep calling it the Battle in the Demon-Infested Shinjuku. I know there are a bunch of different translations out there, and I don't actually remember what the official translation calls these chapters, so we're just going to go with that. And this chapter... it has some good stuff in it, to say the very least. It has some good stuff in it, especially with some stuff recontextualized from the spoiler discussion, thanks to y'all comment section, or y'all in the comment section. I like this chapter even more than I did before, and it may go down as like probably top 3 chapters in this fight so far, and we got it's crazy to think we got 12 chapters to choose from, so that it is actually like a valid thing that it's in the top 25%. But let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. Adding me, ready, 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? Another fun figure. Fun fact, I happen to have it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. But let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into chapter 234. So, ladies and gentlemen, we open up and we get to see that Yuta Okotsu enters the strongest matchup, or at least he attempts to. Yuta pulls up, his ballet, you know what I'm talking about. He keeps it on him. Yuta just like me, for real, for real. We both keep it on us at all times, and we see that he's gripping it. He's gripping it, and I think I'm confident this is purposeful. I feel like Gege knows that we've been clowning on Yuta. I think Gege knows he's been portraying Yuta a little bit sweaty, a little bit moist, if you will. And thusly, having Yuta step up like this is a very good way to get a lot of people off his back. Am I still going to clown him a little bit? Yeah, but I clown on him out of love. Don't worry. But we see that as he walks in, he makes a pretty declarative statement. He says, "I'll go." So he's ready to enter. My thing is, though, how? Like, people have said that maybe Ui Ui has teleportation, which would be a cool ability for him. And that would be neat if that's the way they get to the battle. Interesting that Ui Ui of all characters is teleportation. But I mean, hey, you wouldn't catch me complaining. But, like, can you imagine if he just had to run there? Like, where are they? Do we even actually know where they are? Was that ever state? I have no idea where they are. But for all we know, they could be like 2 feet away, or they could be like whole cities away, which would probably be the safer option. So I generally have no idea where they are. But Yuta was just ready to walk out and stroll there. And the man, the myth, the legend himself, someone else I've been clowning on. This is honestly... This intro, the opening to this chapter is just a battle of 2 clowns, at least in my opinion. Or in terms of like people I've been joking on. They're literally 2 of the strongest characters in the entire series. Both of these characters are irrefutably top 10. You can make arguments for both being top 5. I've seen arguments for both, and I think a lot of them are valid. So, despite me joking on these 2 individuals and their hidden potential, don't get me wrong, they still are demons. And the one demon says 3 words. Get back here. Kashimo, and I'll admit, I've been clowning on bro for just like posting it up like this the entire time, but I'll admit, him telling Yuta to get back here while not even turning away from the screen is crazy. That's a power move right there. Like, I don't know about y'all, but there are times where I can think back in my memory and remember saying to my father, I'm going somewhere. And I go to walk out the door, and my father, once again, just watching the TV, would say, no, go back upstairs. And it was my pops, so I had to go back upstairs. So, like, I completely equivocate that feeling that I had then to what Yuta must be feeling now. Like, the indignation, but knowing, wait a minute, this may not be a viable strat. And here's the thing, right? Don't let this young face fool you. Kashimo's an old man. He was like at bare minimum in his 60s by the time he maybe perished. We don't actually know if that flashback during the Hikari Kashimo fight is him anywhere near his actual end. Well, to be fair, we know it is near because he is coughing up the life juice, but we don't know if he just dropped right then and there. So he could have gotten even older, despite Kashimo looking like a man in honestly his early 20s. He looks barely older than any of the teenage cast. He is like a bare minimum in his 60s. So he really is talking to a young child. Like, Yuta could legit be his grandson, unironically. Especially at the time period where Kashimo comes from, Yuta could be his great-grandson. So him talking to Yuta like this is funny, yet also makes sense within the context of Kashimo being a much older character than his current physique implies. And we see that Kashimo, beginning to spark up, turns and says, "Don't interfere." Which is, okay, odd stuff. What you doing sparking up right now? You ain't wasting that curse technique. You ain't wasting that curse technique. Now, Yuta, I know you ain't. I know Yuta ain't the strongest. I know you ain't wasting that curse technique, broski. So what you sparking up for, homeboy? What you sparking up for? And we see that Kashimo says something that I could use the clown on him for, but I won't. Okay, I may. Because he says, "Don't interfere. At least you're not next." I love how Kashimo went from "get back here, don't interfere" to "bro, I'm next on the sticks. Put the controller down." Like, I don't know, that just seems so funny to me. Like, bro really said, "Hey, I got next. What you doing? Step away from the sticks. You the coach, step away from the sticks right now." That's another situation that's happened a lot in my life. I only not with my dad, but like with friends, where one will step out for half a second, come back, like especially in Smash Bros, because 4-player game. Before, back in Smash 4, actually no, 8-player game by the time of that. 4-player game back in the time of Brawl. I specifically remember when we had the Wiimote out, the Wiimote and nunchucks, it would get tragic. You step away for a second, the round ends, you coming back in, you see someone reaching for the sticks, the loser sticks, even though it's supposed to be your turn, you gotta be like, "You're not next. Slide them." So Kashimo giving me a bunch of flashbacks here. And I'll give credit to Yuta. The moment Kashimo opened his mouth, Yuta gave him one of the most... admittedly, the mouth kind of underwhelms the intimidation of this look. Like, just cover from here down. Just here. Do that. Do that. And this is one of the hardest looks Yuta has given in the entire series. He's really looking like, who do you think you're talking to right now? Do you know who I am? Like, that's the kind of look he's giving, but his mouth does look a little shaky. Like, I get it. It's still supposed to be like an angry look, but like, it's like, instead of being like this, a look of pure judgment, it's more like this. You can't talk to me that way. But that's just me. Once again, that's me being mean to Yuta. Yuta posting up here and flaring his cursed energy is really, really hype. Like, this is, ironically, I'd say since his introduction, is the first time that Yuta seemed like genuinely intimidating and like fully confident in his ability. Like, to be fair, you could definitely say that he was confident against Druve and running through the early parts of Sendai, but still, like, no one had like any sort of reaction to him or was like flaring their cursed energy in response. Earl was treating him like a joke at first. Ryu was treating him like a joke at first. Even when it got serious, when they got locked in, it still wasn't that all too crazy for him. And Yuta never necessarily responded with any sort of like malice or even appeared to have any sort of malice in him. But no, Kashimo starts talking that talk and Yuta's like, "You ready to walk the walk then?" Honestly, low key, I wouldn't mind if they fought right now. Put Gojo and Sukuna on pause. I don't care. I legit don't care. Let these two hash it out right now. Let them fight. Admittedly, I feel like this is something that should have been settled in the month time skip, and we do get to see that it is. But like, it would have been really neat if they sparred. Like, if they actually knew a little bit about each other and they trained together. That's one of the things. I get it. I get why a lot was left vague in the month time skip for Gege to essentially just pull out whatever. Gege can say X happened in the month time skip. We kind of just have to hold that. Like, there's nothing we can do about it. But I wish we got to see some of it. Because this kind of dynamic would be really cool to explore. JJK, you could give JJK MHA length, and I think it would be even better. But to each their own. I understand why JJK is not MHA length. But we do get to see that Hikari, being the senior to Okotsu, genuine senior, not just in Kashimo's sense where he's literally like 60 to Yuta's 17, but Hikari's, I believe, 18 or 19 to Yuta 17, and literally just a third year, he says, "Calm down, Okotsu. Kashimo's right about this. Gojo-san only allowed us to enter if he got weaker than us." So, this is, I don't know, this is still crazy to me. The collective, everyone here, now notably, I'm not here to peddle you. Yeah, I joke about Miwa stuff, but I think I literally just got that from Broken Ronin. But like, I'm not here to peddle you that characters like Miwa, characters like what's his name? What's her name? Momo. Characters like Uyui. Heck, even characters like Meimei and Kusakabe. I'm not here joshing with you. And if you're wondering why I didn't bring up Filth, aka Panda, you know why. That piece of filth should be... Okay, let me stop. They should have eaten him. Either Yuji should have eaten him to get his curse technique, or Yuta should have eaten him to get his curse technique. One way or another, Panda shouldn't be here right now. He should be digesting. No, he should have been digested. He should have been the first thing they ate over the month time skip. But regardless of any of that, none of them are really the ones I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, obviously Gojo would still be stronger than them while brain damaged, super fatigued, output lowering, all that. That makes sense. But what is really shocking to me is that, but well, not necessarily, because low-key I was ready to push the narrative, but fresh, remember, these are fresh variations of the character. Fresh liberated Yuji, which makes sense, you know. It's unconfirmed if Yuji has still made an implication or any way to get past infinity, so makes sense. And to be fair, none of these characters, ironically enough, let me be completely honest, I guess the reason that Gojo said none of you can hop in unless I'm literally weaker than you is because literally none of them could actually bypass infinity. I'm not sure if Akari's domain would shut down the neutral limitless, and thus like Maki and Yuta, if they got in there on Akari's domain, would go crazy, or if Yuta's domain has some sort of sure hit effect. But even then, they would all get blitzed, which is crazy. Crazy that the heavy hitters of Jujutsu High, who all speak here, which is very, very nice. They do like this. This whole page is the strongest of Jujutsu High. Not in order. Though, ironically enough, a lot of people would argue this is in order. A lot of people would put Akari at 1, Yuta at 2, Maki at 3, and Isidori at 4. Personally, my list is Maki at 1. It's not in like terms of raw stats, but in terms of who would beat who in a fight, I got Maki at 1, high speed plus Duraneg equals GG. Then I got Yuta at 2, the bulk, the versatility, the unknown factor, the jump factor. I have Yuta at 2 for all that. I got Akari at 3, specifically Jackpot Akari. If we're talking base Akari would be at 4. He's super duper fodder. No offense to him. And then finally Yuji at the bottom. Once again, he's just a little bit too basic and doesn't have anything crazy. No RCT, no confirmed domain amplification. We don't fully understand his technique, if he has one at all. So right now, Yuji, despite being extremely powerful and arguably relative to Maki, meaning he should be faster than both of these, I don't think he has anything to actually properly put these two down with just fisticuffs. But sorry, got super duper distracted there. Essentially, Gojo made them promise to leave it be until he was essentially gone. Like, that's kind of what Akari is implying here. Because unless Gojo is literally out of curse energy, something that is pretty much an impossibility, it would never be stronger than him as a collective, which is crazy to me. But we see that Yuta tries to argue it's case by case, and Sukuna's domain expansion has been disabled right now. If Rika-chan and I enter, I can definitely help by handling the 2 shikigami. Very interesting that Yuta claims that. I don't think he knows what he's cooking. Maybe I'll slop Yuta off a little bit. That sounds so wrong. Well, I will give Yuta his credit a little bit. Maybe he could beat Ahito. Maybe. But after what's revealed in this chapter, I legit don't think so. Like, I'm not sure. Once again, the big things that Yuta are lacking, or Yuta is lacking, is those big, meaty one-shot techniques. Right now, only has a sky manipulation, which wouldn't be able to get rid of Ahito, based on what we see in this chapter. He has Cursed Speech, which likely wouldn't be able to get rid of Ahito, based on what we see in this chapter, just because of the regen, and Ahito's massive cursed energy amounts, most likely. And Drew Shikigami technique, which may work. Drew Shikigami technique may work simply because of the domain thing. Maybe if he's able to create that orbiting domain, he could shut down the 10 Shadows technique in an orbiting fashion. Not entirely sure if that's how that works, though. Because technically, then again, we never get to see him use Drew Shikigami technique against Kurushi, someone else that's technically of Kenjaku's technique, but at the same time, I believe it said Kurushi got free. So, like, or was let go into the coming games to while out. So maybe it wouldn't work regardless. But that's the thing. Yuta right now, I don't think could take either of them. Especially considering Maharaga's blatant relativity to Gojo. Even if it's a super fatigued and tired Gojo, Maharaga should be way too fast. Just simply an entirely different speeds here for Yuta. And would be able to one-tap Rika with the RCT blade, and Ahito probably wouldn't do too much damage to Yuta. Remember, Yuta is probably, out of all the characters here, the bulkiest character in base at all times. But at the same time, Yuta would have nothing to get rid of it. Even if he double teamed it with Rika, if Uro was able to eat those hits, Ahito's going to be able to eat those hits. And unlike Uro, Ahito will just casually regen. So even with the ultimate max output Rika Blast, I don't think Yuta, from what we know right now, has what it takes to handle either the Shikigami, let alone both of them like he claims. I think he is low-key gassing himself up a little bit too much here, unless he, now this is the Yuta Glazer coming out. I know, I'm shocked I even have this in me. If Yuta, in the month time skip, got Angel's technique, then it's different. Because if he got the Curse Technique negation, if he got the Heavenly Light, cooked. Both the Shikigami are cooked. They would get hit by Angel's Light and wiped. Simple as that. There's pretty much no argument to that. Maharaga should be unadapted to that. He's never trained against Angel's Light. And Ahito is just a cursed Shikigami. Shikigami is part of a technique. Angel's ability nullifies techniques. Both will get hit by the Heavenly Light. They're both super evil spirits. They're literally being fueled by Sukuna's cursed energy, arguably the most evil thing to ever evil. He's literally the Fallen. I think, for all intents and purposes, it should be an instant cook-up if he has Angel's technique. Once again, that's the big if. If he has it. If he doesn't, I don't think he wins. But if he does, especially if he catches them lacking, because they're fighting Gojo, he could cook. But unfortunately, if he still has the 5-minute time limit, burning that this soon is not a good idea, because you're going to need it later, as they point out. But we see, went on a whole side tangent about Yuta's hypothetical potential. Still need to make the video on that. We see that Maki says, if someone is going, it's me. And to be fair, she has a very good point. At this point in time, Maki is pretty much the only one who is set up from rip. Maki doesn't need to put on a ring and start a 5-minute timer. Maki doesn't need to open a domain, probably with somebody else, and then play a couple rounds of gambling in order to reach her full potential. Itadori does not have Durnek. Or anything more than punches as far as we know. But Maki, admittedly this is Yuta's blade, preferably, but Maki has Soul Split Katana. She can just immediately neg anything she comes in contact with through straight up attacking the soul instead of the physical body. Though admittedly, I still don't think that would beat Ahito because of Ahito's insane regeneration, and I don't think that would beat Maharaga either. The only thing that would be effective against is maybe Sukuna. And I say maybe Sukuna because Sukuna could likely dodge. Once again, Maki at best, even as the mightiest Maki muncher on this side of the Mississippi, Maki at best has low-endish relativity. I'd say Yuji has low-end relativity. I'd say Maki is pretty relative to 15-finger Maguna when his physical output's fine, or physical movement is fine. 20-finger, even on super-duper crazy fatigue, should still be in an entirely different league than 15-finger. So even Maki is going to prove pretty ineffective here. But I get why she says, I need to go out, if anyone's going to go out, because she's the one that's most easily able to drop in, do something, drop out without losing anything significant. Hikari drops in, he doesn't get his jackpot, cooked. Yuta drops in, he burns his 5-minute timer for the day, cooked. Itadori drops in, can't do anything because all he can do is punch, cooked. But Maki drops in, tries to Soul Split Katana something, realizes that's not working, speeds on out of there. Simple as that. So I understand why she says that. I do love how Kashima's like, get lost. No, bro. What do you want? Like, you agreed to this, buddy. I hate to say it. Though, again, I'm assuming... Though, interesting that he didn't ask for a binding vow. Now that I think about it, I think that's... Maybe he has a binding vow set up with Gojo, but I'm shocked in that whole month period he didn't get them to make a binding vow to let him fight Sukuna next if Gojo loses. I feel like that would be a very easy thing to do. Like, just tell them to set it up. Like, hey, and if they say no, threaten them. Why not? Like, you want smoke anyway. You ran hands with Hikari, run hands with Yuta, run hands with Maki, see what happens. Like, legitimately, I'm shocked Kashima didn't set that up, but, Kashimo, he seems like a very in-the-moment kind of person. I highly doubt he's giga brain and thinking 15 light years ahead on what he actually needs to do in order to secure his fight with the strongest. However, we do get to see that Maki says, don't forget your role. We're thinking that if you're defeated, some of the insurance will be gone. So at first I thought she was talking to Kashimo here, but I do believe she is talking to Yuta based on her eyeline expressions and Yuta looking this way. And once again, that's true. Yuta, unfortunately, with the 5-minute time limit, Notably, she says if he gets defeated. So that's even worse. But even Yuta just engaging with Sukuna right now, 5-minute time limit, burns that. Yuta's down his technique and only has unmanifested Rika. That's not good enough. It's something that I don't think I need to convince you that base Yuta, even with unmanifested Rika, and let's say he keeps his sword, I don't think I have to realistically convince you that if he runs up against Kenjaku, runs up against Sukuna, runs up against anybody that, heck, dare I say, even Uraume, I legit think Uraume would mop the floor with base Yuta, just considering how generally lacking base Yuta's feats are without Rika. Maybe unmanifested Rika could cook a little bit, but I'm not sure. Once again, Uraume's crazy. Kenjaku's crazy. Sukuna's obviously crazy. So I'm not sure how much unmanifested Rika would do. That's like Maki reasoning that, hey, we can't lose you right now. 5-minute time limit or not, simply losing you would be bad. And we see that Yuta argues, if we win against Sukuna, we don't need that insurance. We should take a gamble, which is ironic coming from Yuta Okotsu's mouth when the gambling man's right here. And he's the one who's actually not taking the gamble and is sitting back and watching. Though I still do think it is a little bit, I get in narrative, or I get the meta-narrative reason why he isn't just sitting in Jackpot and every 4 minutes and 11 seconds, idle death, opening it up, getting another fresh round. I get why in universe, or no, and out of universe he's doing that, but in universe it makes no sense that base Akari is sitting around. Right now, this guy's the weakest asset out of everyone here. Because remember, all Hikari can do is punch. He's literally just a weaker Yuji. A weaker, slower, and more fragile Yuji. In base. In Jackpot, he's crazy, but he needs to be in Jackpot. So the fact that he's sitting around is a little bit weird in universe, but I get why out of universe. But we see that Yuji Itadori, the gambling man himself, I suppose, says, go for it. We need it. I saw someone joke that, like, oh, Itadori's trying to get rid of Yuta so people can stop calling Yuta the real main character. And I don't believe Itadori would ever do that, but it is funny when you think about it. He's the one telling Yuta to go do it. Sacrifice yourself, Yuta. Do it for me. But we do get to see that the adults in the room finally speak up. Kusakabe says, give me a break, kiddo. You guys just don't understand this. And both Yuta and Itadori and their double main character syndrome go, Yuta, stop sweating, bro. Simply stop sweating. Please. I'm begging you, bro. You look so metal at the start of this chapter. There was not a drop of sweat on you here. What happened, Yuta? Why'd you immediately start sweating? But we see that Yuta goes, and starts to pout. And Itadori is like, ugh, and starts to pout. And Mei, once again, not looking like Mei, where's the hair detail, says, guys, Gojo-kun and Sukuna have different requirements for winning. Gojo-kun just has to win against Sukuna. Interesting that she says that's the win con. Whew, ain't nothing better than some ice water. But interesting she says that's the win con. Do they not know that Gojo's trying to save Megami? Like, maybe by winning against Sukuna, they literally mean just incapacitate Sukuna, but like, if really just beating Sukuna was the only win con, Gojo could have done that like a bunch. Like a couple times, at least. Like, if he really just wanted Megami cooked, or was willing to sack Megami, he could have sacked Megami a couple times. Main big examples I'm thinking of are start of the fight, right in that instance, right post-domain, and heck, even moments, once again, I genuinely think he held back on that Black Flash. Like, nothing in my, like, I cannot compute if regular blue punches are burying themselves in Sukuna's chest and doing so much damage that his domain collapses, and regular reds are shaving off portions of his face, a blue-red wombo combo Black Flash should have torn Sukuna to pieces, but it didn't, presumably because Gojo's holding back. And that's because he wants to save Megami. But regardless, the main says that's Gojo's win con. Meanwhile, the reason that is his win con is because the collective maybe just enough to handle Kenjaku. Maybe. Just maybe. Which is crazy, because a lot of, well, I'm about to call a certain fan base. A lot of people say that Yuta could take Kenjaku himself. I'm not people. And thusly, I believe Yuta slam. No, look at that. The Yuta glazer in me, it ripped out. But I believe that Kenjaku slams Yuta on his neck, mainly because Yuta doesn't have a counter to barrierless domain. That's really it. Like, I think Yuta, if Kenjaku didn't have a barrierless domain, I think you could definitely argue that matchup is way, way closer, because Curse Spirit Manipulation against a full power Yuta is pretty much worthless. All he needs to do is keep chanting perish, perish, blow up, detonate, like all that. And bada bing, bada boom, all the Curse Spirits that Kenjaku has are worthless. And he just has to rely on the gravity technique. But even with that, even with just gravity technique, I think Yuta could run in, cook it up a little bit. But it's mainly the domain that comes in and really gets him up out of here, if you know what I'm talking about. But then we get to see that they believe together they can handle Kenjaku. And I do believe that. I mean, the fodder's not going to be helpful, realistically. Like, I don't even think Mei, who's arguably the strongest grade 1 sorcerer here, yes, even over Kusakabe, because at least she actually has a technique, I think she's going to be worthless. But I think the 4-man combo of a liberated Yuji, full power Yuta, Jackpot Akari, and Soul Split Katana, Awakened Maki, all would be enough to defeat Kenjaku. Yeah, I believe that. I'm a Jaku Jacker, if you will, but I ain't that much of a Jaku Jacker. And we see that Mei admits it's different for Sukuna. Even if he wins against Gojo-kun, he'll have to fight all of us without a break. However, I think that's irrelevant. Because here's what Akari goes on to say. He says, he must have a trump card that he's... That's not Akari's voice. He must have a trump card that he's preserving. If we go out now, he might use it. So, he doesn't... I hate to say this, y'all. Y'all are not like that. They're talking like Sukuna needs a trump card against them. No, he doesn't. No offense to this entire crew, but to 20-finger Sukuna and full power Gojo, you all are fodder. All it takes is a cleave to Akari's head and he's cooked. All it takes is a cleave to Kashimo's head and he's cooked. Now that Megami's not suppressing Sukuna anymore, all it takes is a cleave to Itadori's body and he's bisected. No RCT. Same thing with Yuta. Even Maki can get hit by the smoothest dismantle this side of the Mississippi and she's cooked. Like, he does not need a special trump card against y'all. If anything, he should be using a special trump card against Gojo. But we'll see. However, we do get to see that essentially Yuta asks, alright, so you're saying it's just not good to provoke them? We need to just sit out and watch? And Kusakabe admits, yeah, they also have Uraume, who's also a monster. Which is true. We have no idea where Uraume is. Presumably she's still in Shinjuku? I think. Probably? I'd assume. Like, unless they ran away. Once again, don't know. Uraume's gender is a coin toss. But unless they ran away, they still should be there. I don't think they got erased by the purple. So, intriguing. Uraume is still a wild card factor that we do not know the location of, the awareness of. We've seen their maximum output. We've seen their lapse of their ice technique. And that was enough to catch Maki. That should be more than fast enough to catch everybody else. So, yeah, even Uraume is a massive, massive threat. But let's see. Sukuna not being able to give it his all, and Gojo being at his best without a hindrance. These circumstances have the highest probability for winning. Once again, I mean, I'll lightly talk about it. I've already mentioned it a little bit. Mei lacking hair detailing. Shoot, even Itadori lacking hair detailing here. You can tell Gege is speeding along a little bit in terms of the art quality. But once again, I say this every single time, and I will keep saying it because I want people to know. I could never, and I mean never, and I mean never, ever, ever, be a weekly mangaka. You could not pay me enough money. I could not produce this many images on a week-by-week basis. So shout-outs to Gege for pushing it this hard. Though admittedly, at the same time, I understand why he isn't taking a break. You want to keep that momentum, and obviously this is one of the biggest fights in, well, new-gen anime manga history right now. So obviously you want to keep it pushing. But I do kind of wish he would take a break. I really am missing that, like, peak Shibuya art style, that peak Shibuya level of detail and swag. Like, it had a next level element to the fight. This fight is already really, really good, but imagine if we had like the quality. Realistically, even of the Culling Games fights, like Hikari versus Kashimo is a very well drawn fight. Higuruma versus Itadori is also a very, very beautiful read. Like, I think this really ended up happening like somewhere, but then again, that's the thing. Gege has his moments of like returning to that peak proper art style. Like Gojo's release, chef's kiss. That's some of the most beautiful the man's ever looked. There's some iffy things in that chapter, but still beautiful the man has ever looked. There are moments even in this fight that are like gorgeous to look at. The dual domain, like when Gojo was on the ground and Sukuna was standing on Malevolent Shrine, that was gorgeous too. Like, he has his moments, but you can tell a lot of this stuff that is essentially filler for the most part definitely gets less of his time and attention. But we do get to see that Yuta sort of has an existential crisis as he thinks about a hindrance. But it's true. Like, this is even no offense to Yuta, because once again, I think Yuta's easily a top 10 character. And while I personally don't believe he's top 5, I can definitely see the arguments for him being top 5, especially at full power. You take away that limiter, and he's probably absolutely top 5. Yeah, give him a few curse techniques, though. He does need to make up for like speed and power. He has sky manipulation, but still, I do find it crazy. And also just telling the level of power that the current fight is at, that Yuta Okotsu, second to Satoru Gojo in unusual abilities, Hikari Kenji, the restless gambler the restless gambler, I said it again, the restless gambler who risks his life with every game he plays, Maki Zenin, the beast, the monster, the ghost of one of the great Jujutsu families, and the liberated vessel, awakened Yuji, all together are nothing more than a hindrance to the strongest sorcerer. If that doesn't tell you how powerful Gojo and Sukuna are, I don't know what will. But we see that Kashimo, maybe accidentally, maybe purposely, ends up mocking them. He says, "Is this all we have for modern sorcerers?" And Hikari, ready to run, I do like this, in a similar vein to how Yuta was ready to run smoke early in the chapter. Hikari, upon being insulted, is like, "Huh? What you talking about? You want smoke?" And we see that Kashimo says, "That's not the point. This is a fight for Gojo Satoru. Whatever happens, it's lame to interfere with it." So Kashimo is a man of principles mostly. Like, he doesn't necessarily care about the odds, the probability of winning, all that boring stuff. What he really cares about is that Gojo Satoru gets a fight worthy of the title of the strongest sorcerer. And thusly, if they hop in, sure, it'll be Jujutsu Kaisen, and sure, Sukuna's already engaging Jujutsu Kaisen, but it's Sukuna using a technique. And it's Gojo fighting freely. This is a battle of the strongest and the strongest. It would be wrong for the lesser people to intervene. And I think that's nice. Once again, do I still wish Kashimo was the opening act for Gojo versus Sukuna? Yes. Do I still wish Kashimo fought Sukuna first? Yes, it's basically the same thing as the opening act. Do I wish... I wish a lot of things for Kashimo. But regardless, I do like that he is honest here, and he is cooking just a little bit. And we do get to see, we cut back to the main big old battle. And once again, these backgrounds are really, really good too. So I don't know. Sometimes it's literally when Gege gets close up on the character, sometimes he forgets or decides to not include certain details. But we cut back to the main battle. And Gojo is currently booking it backwards away from Maharaga and Ahito. Once again, here's the thing. I point this out so much only because I've become more attentive to Gege's art style. Is my sketchbook anywhere near me? It is not. So I won't grab it out. But I've been drawing a lot more of JJK stuff for reasons. And like I know what Gege can hit. And I've like seen it before with some of these characters, specifically with Gojo and Maharaga specifically. The reason they look so off to me at certain panels of this chapter is because I know how Gege draws them. Even in high-intensity action moments, I know how Gege draws them. So the lack of detail in some cases kind of throws me off. And look at Ahito here. Like, bro, what is this? But regardless, once again, I could never do it, and Gege is an infinitely better mangaka or even artist than I am. Like, trust me. I make these critiques out of love, and because I know he can do better, and I assume he's tired. But, like, being real with you, I could never be. Never. Nowhere near. Like, Gege at his worst is still 1,000 times better than my best. 100%. So, do not let my critiques delude you into thinking that I've deluded myself into thinking that I'm anywhere near the level of artist that Gege is. I still hate drawing backgrounds. I don't even really draw backgrounds. That's how bad an artist I am. But we do get to see that Ahito is taking the lead. And this is interesting, right? Gojo seemingly dodges, well, not seemingly, does actively dodge Ahito's claw swing, which is interesting considering what happens on later in the chapter. Maybe the main reason Gojo did this was to simply avoid Maharaga coming next. Because you can see the moment he ducks the claw slipe? Where's my English, bro? Where is it? Where is it? Please, English, come back to me. But we see the moment the claw strike is ducked, Gojo lunges forward and pops another black flash straight into Ahito's gut. So this is 2. I forget what the record is. Is it 7? How many black flashes? I missed. Yeah, there we go. Did miss that time. But how many black flashes did Yuji hit in Goodwill and in Shibuya? I generally don't remember. But I forget what the record is. But I'm wondering, is Gojo going to break that record now? Because this is the next black flash. But once again, I will admit, I get it. Blue is an attack that specifically attracts you. Doesn't push you away. But the fact that this black flash, another one of the strongest attacks in the entire series, only slightly blows out Ahito's back is impressive on Ahito's part and a bit underwhelming on Gojo's part. Like, darn, bro, I was expecting you to do a little bit more. I get it's a punch, and like punches don't have massive refractory effects like massive energy blast do, but still. Come on now, it's Gojo. It's something with Gojo. You're telling me he can't hit just a teeny tiny bit harder? Just a little bit harder. But we do get to see that despite burying his fist in Ahito's gut, Ahito's like, what you gonna do about it, broski? And immediately grows that gut back. I wonder if both of these sets of eyes are functional. Because like, why are you facing, shouldn't you be facing back? Well, I guess you don't. Then again, Gojo could teleport. Like, shouldn't you be watching the back, bro? But we see that Ahito immediately regenerates. And we see that Gojo, speaking of, shouldn't you be watching the back? I'm not exactly sure what Gojo does here. I'm assuming he teleports, so we don't get to see him move. But he punches Ahito in the front. Ahito instantly regens the damage off. But then Gojo sneaks around behind. Or probably he went to the right, grabbed the snake tail, and tore it straight off. It makes a noise. Poor thing. But Gojo just throws it. Honestly, for the disrespect, I would have beat it with its own tail. Me personally, if I were the strongest sorcerer, I know this sounded crazy from a guy who constantly says I'd be spamming teleportation, I'd be playing mind games, I'd be stalling, I'd be a super duper annoying to fight if I was Gojo. In moments like this, I would definitely beat them with Ahito's tail, just for the fun of it. But we see he throws the tail away, and instantaneously the tail grows back. Super duper quality regen. I'd say this is like regen pretty much on par. I don't know, because this is a pretty big limb on a pretty big creature. On par, if not above, Hikari's regen and jackpot. Maybe above is crazy, but I'd say about on par, considering how fast the tail regrows. Like, Gojo doesn't even get to throw the head of the tail that he just tore off that far away before it's already fully popped back out. But we see, like Gojo explains, everything that's inside Ahito. Newer. That inherited Great Serpent, which we knew lost to Sukuna forever ago, like 200 chapters ago. Worn Tiger, something we never got to see, but I'll talk about that in a second. And Round Deer. Interesting exceptions. No Rabbit Escape, no Froggies, and no Divine Dogs. Intriguing. I get why Max Elephant isn't in there, because once again, Sukuna has been using Max Elephant's ability through his own hands, so it's likely... And shout outs to everyone who brought up the idea of just instead of a maximum elephant, it's a miniature elephant just sitting in Sukuna's palms, and he's like pressing his fingers. Like, have you ever had a hose and you like put your finger down the water pressure and that increases it out massively? Like, Sukuna's just doing that, but instead of with an actual hose, he's using just a miniature elephant and does that. So I get why the elephant isn't there. That's Sukuna's pretty much only ranged attack that he can perform himself. But big booty butt cheeks. Interesting that Divine Dog Totality isn't in there. That's something interesting to me. I wonder why. Hold off on that. But we see that Gojo understands. Oh, okay. The point is, the healing effect of Madoka, or Round Deer, is that it's not actually endowed to the Limitless, but it will have to be destroyed in one shot, just like Maharaga. So ultimately, while Maharaga has the adaptation that allows it to, soak up a lot of hits on top of its healing, all that Ahito has is the healing, and it's a big old meat shield, and it's a big old blinder, and it's also an extra shadow for Sukuna himself to pop out of. A lot of those are assets that Gojo simply cannot ignore, and thusly Nue Totality, the fusion beast Ahito, despite not being all that threatening, it's annoying. It's kind of like, I feel like the human path is a weird comparison, but in Naruto, I believe the human path lost to Konohamaru. Like, it wasn't a very powerful path of pain, especially compared to like the Diva path, the Asura path, the Animal path. Like, those were like the three big combat ones. But the human path lost to Konohamaru. And it's mainly seems like that for Ahito. Ahito is the human path. It is not necessarily that dangerous, but its ability is annoying. Just like the human path, well, I guess you could say the Naraka path is more akin to this because it has the regen abilities. So the Naraka path really is Ahito in the scenario. It's literally just annoying, and it will keep bringing back things. And hypothetically, it could bring back even Sukuna. But we do get to see that Maharaga starts to get creative. It stabs its sword along the ground, drags it, and throws it up in Gojo's direction. And we see Gojo respond by doing nothing, because obviously these rocks, and this is something that I'm going to talk about later, because I've already seen people in the spoiler discussion talking about this, and why I do think something is something, not something else. Especially considering what this chapter literally just verbatim says. But we see that Maharaga throws up rocks, but since these rocks are not infused with Maharaga's essence or anything like that, the rocks simply stop in front of Gojo's infinity barrier. And we see that Maharaga simply used the rocks, like a Krillin player uses the rocks, threw the rocks in, forced Gojo to block, quote unquote, the infinity barrier, and comes down with the RCT blade. But an attempt of pure metalness, what ends up happening is that it looks like, okay, let me break this down. Gojo dodges Maharaga's swing, once again proving that he is pretty much faster. They may be relative in speed somewhat, but Gojo is definitely faster than Maharaga, at least this variation of Maharaga. We see he smiles at Maharaga, then plants his foot against Maharaga's arm. Maharaga's caught off guard, and then boom, seemingly enough with a spin kick, the blade of Maharaga gets knocked away. And Ahito, coming in to support its loving husband, comes in with the Sparky Sparks. And the Sparky Sparks approach Gojo, and Gojo approaches the Sparky Sparks. And let me tell you, if I am ever in the middle of a LOD encounter with someone or something of this magnitude, or anybody, and they roll up to me like they are, hold on. I'm about to stand for this. If they roll up to me like Fusion Zamasu, like they were literally about to tell me, I am a god, like they're literally going to start preaching about the Zero Mortals plan, I'm running. I'm not engaging with this anymore. Mama Ahito is much braver than me, because you don't pull up like this. You don't pull up like this unless you're about to do some divine retribution, and I ain't trying to stick around to see that. But we see Gojo pulls up and instantaneously just swinged. Like, since he still has the infinity barrier up, it seems like the electricity dissipates when it tries to come in contact with Gojo. Essentially, Gojo ended up cutting off the current by simply moving in between the electricity hands. And he immediately swings on it. Once again, it's hilarious. Like, these are monsters. Beasts. Born of shadow and darkness. And Gojo's just like... like, imagine... Everything goes back... Everything's a Kingdom Hearts reference. Imagine, right? Instead of Sora pulling up on beings of pure darkness with this beautiful, exquisite, scrumdiddlyumptious blade of light, all he did was put the blade down and swing on a Heartless. Like this is essentially what would happen if Sora said, forget the Keyblade Darkseid, I'm running hands. And literally just ran hands with Darkseid. That is literally what this is. No Keyblade involved, all pure liquid hands. And that's what Gojo's doing here. And it is insane. Because the thing is, it's working. Like, it's not even that, well, it's working against Ahito specifically. And honestly, it's even working against Mahoraga. Mahoraga spat up after getting hit by Gojo. So it really is crazy that just pure raw fisticuffs. Gojo's that physically powerful. Presumably with help from Blue and stuff like that. Like, I highly doubt this is any sort of conventional... Ooh, get up there properly, please. 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 Alright. Stay there. I beg of you. Alright? You good? Whoa. You ain't good. Alright. We're gonna leave you there for now. But, presumably, Gojo's not using just regular punches, is animating himself with Blue, but still, the fact that he's using Blue and slobber knocking curses like this is crazy. And we see that Gojo straight insults Ahito like, you're becoming repetitive. And we see in his head, he's like, it'll be tedious if it heals Sukuna, so I'll destroy Ahito first. And that, why are you doing this? Stick on the wall. But I find it funny that Gojo simply says it would be tedious. Not it would be dangerous, not that it's a threat. No, it would simply be tedious if it healed Sukuna. Thusly, he's going to destroy Ahito first. That's crazy. He thinks a fully healed King of Curses will be nothing more than tedious when his outputs are dropping like that. However, we do get to see that Sukuna, as his mommy and daddy are... I'm sorry. I'm not... It's really hard to believe that I don't think Sukuna's a fraud, isn't it? I don't think he's a fraud. I just think it's funny. I'm sorry, the mommy and daddy Mahoraga memes. I feel like everyone's seen that one comic strip. I don't know who the artist is, but they did like a whole Mahoraga as the dad, Ahito giving birth to Sukuna, like Mahoraga teaching Sukuna the flame arrow, which is hilarious because Sukuna cooked Mahoraga with the flame arrow. All that, it's super funny. It is super duper funny. That's why I'm still making those jokes. But we see that he's being babysat in the shadow. And he says, this is fine. I won't let him wait. I won't let him have a moment to use purple. So, Gojo has actually struck the fear of fatality in Sukuna's heart with purple. So Sukuna is running low. He's running low on juice. And the reason I say that is because what Sukuna says here. The purple he used at the start of the fight was more than 120% of the output, and he must have used some kind of binding vow, which is true. Not necessarily a binding vow, but he did use Utahime's technique, which boosted it up to twice its raw power. But we see that Sukuna says to himself, even when I faced it, I was 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles away. So I was able to take it and only lose my enhanced arms. Interesting that he says he loses both arms. So he did regenerate. By the time we see him at the end of 223, I do believe. By the time we see him at the end of 223, he actually had already regrown one arm. Super duper impressive regen speed. But he says he only managed to lose his arms, which means he didn't that is interesting. He didn't actually dodge it. Why did it stop then? Why did it... I don't get... That's a weird thing. Because he doesn't say, I used domain amplification to negate the rest and only lost my enhanced arms. He just says he lost his enhanced arms. Like, his arms were bulky enough to tank the hit and just, I guess, burn all of Purple's 200% energy, I guess. I don't know. That's weird. I wish... Maybe it'll be in the official translation. Maybe it'll be in a different translation. I wish he said something along the lines of, I only lost my arms before I use domain amplification to negate the rest of it. Something along those lines to explain how he managed to tank a 200% hollow purple, but then goes on to say, but I too am not in my best condition. So if I take purple now at 100% output, it will be fatal. So, Sukuna's in a precarious position right now. He is actually susceptible to Gojo's strongest attack if it can be charged and landed at 100%. All three of those things are hard. Right now, Gojo's output is lowered. To what percentage? No idea. Gege did not tell us. 2, charge time. Notably, the chapter ends by saying it magically gets charged, but that's still difficult enough itself. And 3, actually hitting Sukuna. Because remember, Sukuna can disappear into the shadow of anything, presumably. Not just his own shadow, but Maharaga's shadow. He can just vanish. So hitting Sukuna with 100% purple is likely going to be difficult in of itself. So those are 3 hard conditions to me, but it's interesting that Sukuna thinks in 100% purple would take him out now. That's intriguing to me. That tells me that he must be running low on cursed energy. Because if he was able to block it with, as this chapter says, just his enhanced arms before, that means he doesn't have enough cursed energy to reinforce his body to actually survive it. Because fatality for Sukuna literally must mean, like, he's vaporized. Like, Sukuna should have some of the best regen in the series. He's able to casually restore arms, his torso, and stuff like that. So, presumably, purple would just genuinely execute him, which is very, very interesting. I'm assuming he's just running low on juice, or at least juice relative enough that Gojo's purple could actually be fatal. But we see that Sukuna isn't just thinking about himself and stopping purple. He's also critical of his shadow, Maharaga. As he says, Maharaga, or he thinks, I'm not sure how this works. Like, is he broadcasting his thoughts? Maharaga, how long are you going to have me wait? That's not what I want to see. You're my shadow, not Fushiguro Megami's. Show me what you have. Once again, I'm just going to lightly tap on the art because it's really glaring to me in panels like this. This is not Maharaga. I don't know what this is. This is not Maharaga. I don't know. Maybe I think it's a couple things. It's like how skinny he is relatively, how short the blade is, the size of the wings, the thickness of the tentacle head. It's really the chin. I think the chin is what really throws me off here. And the neck or lack thereof. I don't know. It's just a weird drawing of Maharaga. But weirdness or not, the wheel spins and instantaneously, despite being this far away, and remember, Gojo just weaved Maharaga right here. Just weaved Maharaga and then kicked it hard enough that its blade went haywire and slashed through the building. With one spin, boom, gone. Right arm, gone. In one spin, one slash took Gojo's right arm straight off. And once again, look at the distance. I want you to look at the distance here. He's nowhere near Gojo. But this slash did that to Gojo. And look what it did to the building all the way over there. Maharaga has cleaved his mantle. How? Presumably, this is interesting. And this actually helps my fight rewrite because there was one rule. So here's the thing. One of my biggest issues when I was rewriting this fight is trying to figure out how to incorporate more of the 10 shadows organically. But considering, just like Aito struggling to break through the infinity because it cannot adapt to it, my biggest thing was like, well, how am I going to make it so that these things can adapt? Maybe it's a Maharaga exclusive thing. I'm assuming it is because of the wheel. But I actually like the idea that Gege is loosely implying here that the Shikigami, since they are born of Sukuna's shadow, not Megami's, can also inherit Sukuna's abilities, such as Cleave and Dismantle. Sukuna may not be able to use them himself while he is, using the 10 Shadows technique, but he is able to use it through the Shikigami. And that's what Maharaga does here. Though admittedly, I will say this, these cuts do not line up at all. Hold on. Yeah. This cut on Gojo's arm is this way. It's this way. If this is the blade that hit Gojo, it's this way. How did it end up like this? Like, I have no idea how that, maybe it's just some weird ricochet going on with the infinity, but it shouldn't work like that because Maharaga's adapted to the infinity. And that's another reason why I think this is Cleave and Dismantle, based on not just this, but also what they say here. Notably, we see that Maharaga can use his slashes. That's what Kuzukabe says. So presumably that it was just Cleave and Dismantle. And we see that, once again, the range is off. And notice how I pointed out the rocks earlier. Let's go back. These rocks despite being swung up by Maharaga, do not pierce through the infinity barrier. Why? Because they're not adapted to the infinity, despite Maharaga swinging them. Some people are trying to argue that maybe this swing was just his raw strength, like on a Seven Deadly Sins type beat, where Maharaga simply swung the blade so hard that the air pressure itself is what sliced off Gojo's arm. But based on the fact that we see these rocks not be able to reach the infinity barrier because they are not Maharaga's curse energy or anything, but cleave in this mantle, whichever it was here, that is used to slice off Gojo's arm, it travels and is actually able to pierce through the infinity barrier despite not being attached to Maharaga. That implies to me that Maharaga's slashes are infused with his adaptation to the neutral limitless. Thusly, that's how he's able to pierce through and no one else could. Not the rocks, not anything else, and not air pressure. That's what I'm assuming. And this is a crazy image right here. Gojo's arm is just gone. Gone. Though we do get to see that Sukuna is pleased. Though, one thing, where are you looking? Where are you? Like, you should be looking for, where are you looking? But obviously, everyone's caught off guard, because Akabe is the one who said it first. Maharaga can use his slashes, seemingly enough. And then Itadori says something interesting. Fly? Like Sukuna? I don't think Sukuna flies. I think he is legit just like Maki and Toji. I think he can just straight up hop off air. I think he is just that fast and that strong. I know that feels weird to say, but I think he is just like that. Because every single time we've seen him fly, quote unquote, it's literally just been him kicking off air in a similar vein to how Maki and Toji kick off air. Though I can understand why Yuji would interpret that as flight, because I don't think he's actually seen Maki do that. Yeah, never. He's never seen Maki do that. Because she never had a reason to do it in the Sukuna fight, and I highly doubt she showed him that over the month time skip. But Maharaga also gained Sukuna's ability to hop off air. It makes sense why Ahito can fly, it's literally new way. But Maharaga being able to fly, very, very impressive. And we see that Shoko drops her a millionth light as she says, "This isn't good. Gojo's healing is weak now." Crazy that she says weak. But we do get to see Maharaga and Ahito immediately resume the attack. Though, once again, I have to admit, maybe in the slightest ways, this is Megumi saving Gojo's life. Because especially with how this slash ends up being angled, I mean, it's hard to tell because the perspective's super weird here. But Sukuna knows better. Maharaga should know better. The only person who wouldn't have taken this chance while Gojo didn't know what was happening to decapitate Gojo is Megumi. I think Megumi indirectly is influencing the Shikigami to a point so subtle that even Sukuna doesn't necessarily notice, because why not go for the head here? Like, for any reason, like, why not go for the head? Like, you know the way to defeat Gojo is to behead him. Like, that is the one way you can probably actually take him out. So the fact that that doesn't happen here implies to me that Megumi's messing around in here, or Maharaga's messing around, because this was foolish. You should have just taken his head. And this is coming from a Gojo stand. This was an unoptimal move. You should have simply got his head gone. But we do get to see Maharaga doesn't, and the weird thing is Maharaga does not use Cleaver Dismantle again. Whatever it was, he does not use it throughout the rest of this chapter. Oh, and another thing, people are wondering, how is it that Sukuna's slashes were able to work so ineffectively against Gojo, but one swing from Maharaga is able to do this? I'm going to assume it's because Gojo was off guard. Every other slash, but then again, the weird thing is, Gojo is facing Maharaga here. That's the weird thing. Like, right now, he's looking at Maharaga, so he should have seen it. But I guess since he wasn't ready, maybe his arm bulk wasn't... that isn't a really weird thing. I don't know how Maharaga pulled this off when Sukuna shouldn't, or couldn't. Unless Maharaga's stronger than Sukuna, but I don't think that either. So, it is a little bit weird, because Gojo's been shown to be able to eat cleaves and dismantles. You may be able to chalk this up to the fact that Gojo was never actually eating cleaves and dismantles. He was just healing them all faster than the eye could see. So every single time one would cut into him, he would simply heal it as it was cutting, in a similar vein to Hakari saying, "I'll heal as I break." And then since Gojo's output's lowered, he could not heal as he broke here, and thusly he lost the arm. And you could definitely argue that based on the fact that Shoko not only says his healing is weak now, but also considering it takes so much time for him to regrow his arm. Because look, the process of regrowing the arm starts here. You see the curse energy leaking out. Maharaga and Ahito leap in. And Sukuna, in one of my favorite images of him, comes out the Shadow Realm, straight from behind Maharaga, as Maharaga punches Gojo back. Sukuna, this is interesting. I wonder if there's a delayed effect. I'm presuming either A, Maharaga caused this impact here, forced Gojo to block with the one arm. That shut down the Infinity. It took half a second for Gojo to turn the Infinity back on, and Sukuna abused that half a second to lunge in without having to use domain amplification to do damage. Or Sukuna used, like, domain amplification, but Gege forgot to draw it. Because otherwise, this hit shouldn't be able to happen. But we see that Ahito, one to capitalize, goes to swing with an electric fist, but once again, Ahito's not adapted to the Infinity. It simply isn't. So when it goes to punch Gojo, you see its fist doesn't even make contact. And then Gojo drops one of my favorite bars from him in the entire series. I've been thinking for a while now. You're not strong enough to be here. And yeah, this, if I ever saw, once again, in a similar vein to if someone pulled up like Zamasu, I'm running, if someone ever tilted their head back and looked at me with a grin, I am gone. And we see Gojo coats his left in the flyingest blue orb we've ever seen as the fist struggles to reach through the Infinity. And instantaneously, with the craziest turnaround ever, Gojo buries his fist into the center of Ahito again. No black flash this time, but we see Ahito starting to break, likely about to start healing. Sukuna actually looks slightly worried here. I can't tell if this is a smile or not. The lips are upturned, but the face looks perturbed. Maharaga looks genuinely concerned for his wife. And, I mean, Gojo was the divorce... I can't say it. I'm going to say it. Gojo was the divorce lawyer that Maharaga didn't know he was going to need. Because immediately, with blue maximum output, Ahito's cooked entirely. And, bro, look at look at Maharaga. Stay back, my son. Please, don't get hurt. And Sukuna's even hiding behind him a little bit. And this maximum output blue annihilates Ahito entirely. And we see that while Ahito's cooked, absolutely, to the point where it gets desummoned, again, Gojo Satoru's hollow technique purple will leave a scar in Shinjuku. So, the battle enters its climax. We are winding down. Presumably, we have at most 3 chapters before it's over. No break next week, so we are still cooking. Scrumdiddlyumptious. But interesting. Gojo's healing his arm back. You can already see the musculature for his forearm starting to go back, and he is grinning, though looking quite malicious at the end of this chapter. So overall, wrong sword. Omega W chapter. Why, you may wonder? Well, this chapter simply literally has everything. Now that I kind of skimmed over it, but now that people brought it up to me, and I should have noticed this myself, the Morn Tiger was never going to be important. It was tamed before. Maharaga is the only one that hasn't been tamed. So thusly, Gege even giving us the Morn Tiger in Ahito is... that's just a nice bonus. These couple stripes, it's nice to have. The claws, it's neat. It's fine. It was never going to be powerful or important, even under Sukuna's control, because it wasn't the pinnacle of the 10 Shadows. And the 10 Shadows suck. Even Sukuna admits it sucks. By having to fuse 1, 2, 3, 4 separate beasts together for them to actually do anything worth of any value. And they didn't do anything of value. They literally easily, casually got one shot. The 10 Shadows technique sucks. Unless it's Maharaga, which 9 out of 10 Shadows techniques user will never use. So, yeah, 10 Shadows technique is whack. I like how this chapter confirms that for me. I like how Gojo starts to tweak a little bit. He hits the black flash, he gets further into the zone, and he just starts losing his mind. And also, he lost his arm. That's really, really cool. This is the most extreme damage we've seen Gojo ever take in the entire series, and he still cooks with this insane scrumdiddlyumptious blue that absolutely wipes Ahito from existence. Gorgeous. And even this opening of the chapter, it is my favorite of these little fight interstitials that we've gotten. Seeing Yuta get ready to step up, but then the logic rationalizing on why he shouldn't, and also getting the hint of a nice little matchup of Kashimo versus Yuta. Chef's kiss. Gorgeous chapter. Wonderful chapter. And please let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure the notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with a pencil writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Red Bull 4765. I'd like to give a very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Sean Gray, Red Bull 4765, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, Demix, LND, and Artgoon. I'd like to give another super big thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, and Idemokami. And a final very big thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose.